أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We continue reflecting on the ajza of the Holy Quran. We are up to the 15th juz, para or juz, and it begins in the beginning of Surah Al-Isra. We're just doing a quick summary, inshallah. Surah Al-Isra is also a surah that is revealed in Mecca, just like the two surahs before that we discussed in the Juz 14. It is one of the surahs revealed in Mecca, therefore dealing with the similar themes of the surahs revealed in Mecca. However, it has another important event which it is named after, and it begins with that, which is the event of Isra. Isra and Mi'raj are, just a quick clarification, they're different to Mab'ath. Mab'ath is the appointment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which happened in Rajab. However, the Isra and Mi'raj, in fact, it is suggested that it happened in the month of Ramadan. And it also is suggested that it happened multiple times. So we have multiple narrations about Isra and Mi'raj, which is, Isra is referring to the Prophet being taken miraculously from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine, or specifically Al-Quds. So he was taken from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa miraculously again, because he left for the Isra and then came back. His entire journey was within seconds, basically, as the narrations suggest. So he was taken from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa and then ascended to the heavens. Some suggest it happened then, others suggest it happened then, and other times as well. Regardless, so this particular surah speaks about Isra, confirms Isra, which is the Prophet being taken from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan. It happened at night, min al-Masjid al-Haram ila al-Masjid al-Aqsa. This signifies the significance of the night for spiritual journeys. So they often say, and we have a hadith, if you want to ascend and have a spiritual journey, nights are very significant. Imtita'ul layl, riding the night, not riding at night, riding the night. This is one important discussion in there. The surah is also known as Surah Bani Israel. In fact, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt often refer to it as Surah Bani Israel. I remember a while ago they were saying, there's some Qur'ans that are now changed because they put the name Bani Israel. That actually is the original name, the name that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet referred to it as Bani Israel, and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt referred to it as Bani Israel. Regardless, the reason why it's named Bani Israel, it's because after the subject of Isra, it has a lot of reference to Bani Israel and overall their nation, the Israelites, how they would rise on earth and they would have great positions, and then as part of their test, Allah subhanahu, because they transgress and they become oppressive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends certain people to destroy their nations and their strength, and then that it would happen second time. لَتَعْلُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ. So it will happen a second time, and then they will be. Now, whether those happened already or the second one is going to happen, there is a debate amongst scholars about it. However, Quran is not does not give clear reference to when these events occurred. It just addresses them. Perhaps they know very well when these things happened, and how maybe perhaps the second one is a warning for them or a reminder. So if the second one did occur, it's a reminder that it and if it did not, then it's a warning. And also the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them positions, but it's a test. Again, any position that we get in this life is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a lot of emphasis on Tawheed also in this surah, and some of the important aspects of a believer that feels accountable for their actions. There's also those themes in this surah. The next surah in the 15th juz is Surah Al-Kahf. In fact, this marks the pretty much the middle of the Holy Quran. And one of the ayat in there, according to scholars that they've counted the ayat, they mark the middle of the Quran to be the ayah, or particularly the word that says وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ in the story of Ashabul Kahf. So the Surah Al-Kahf has a lot of obviously beautiful stories there. It's recommended to recite every Friday for protection of faith. It has a lot of reference to the divine intervention and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change things despite what they may appear to us or how they may appear to us. He can change circumstances, and the outcome may be something that is unexpected. The middle of the surah literally is, or the middle of the Quran in the surah is in the story of Ashabul Kahf, the men who left their city, abandoned their people and their city to maintain their faith, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected them and made them sleep for centuries, 309 years, and then they woke up to be a sign. It wasn't for them to live further in this dunya, because life in this dunya is not really significant, but they became a lesson. They became a sign for the people after them. That is very significant. Just the fact that they left, they didn't have to do anything. They left their people, abandoned their positions and their wealth and whatever else, and they went into this cave. They slept for all these years, and then they woke up to basically direct the people to them. One of them went back to the city to bring the people back to them. And when he was going, they told him that he should be very kind, وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ, and make sure nobody notices him and them, therefore. However, being so different to the people of that time, they recognized that he is not from that era or that time. When they inquired, they assured him that he is safe. He realized that now they are believers, and they all came and saw him and the rest of his companions. But by then, when he went in to inform his companions so they're not shocked, they had passed, and therefore they established a place of worship, a masjid, in that location, as a memory of them and the lessons that we could learn from them. But again, the middle word being وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ, to be extremely kind and gentle. To me, it's a sign that this is the center, the core of the Quran, the lot from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are other stories in this surah, including the story of two men. One of them had gardens, and they were beautiful, and surrounded by palms, and he had a lot of vines and so on, rivers flowing through them. Yet he was not a believer, and the other guy who was a believer, companion. Again, companion doesn't mean anything significant in terms of the spiritual companionship. One was a believer, one was a disbeliever. The believer who was not as wealthy and didn't have as many children, he would advise the other guy, and the other guy would constantly tell him that God, if there is a God and if there is a day of judgment, I'm favored here, therefore I will be favored over there as well. So he denied, and eventually his farm and everything was taken, destroyed. Now, all it takes is, a fire that would burn everything, and all of a sudden, everything that he had and worked for was gone. Uh, Not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want goodness for people. Of course, He provides goodness. It's because nature cannot stand denial and deniers. Everything in nature is set in a way, from the formation of this universe, set in a way that is in line, and it basically nature is synced with faith and goodness. But if one oppresses, basically through ways that we don't see, visualize, or see, with our eyes, through those things, nature rebels against us. And this is why Quran says, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. All sorts of mischief is appearing or apparent in the land and in the oceans because of or through what the people's hands have earned. When God forbid, when people oppress each other, when they harm each other, when there's oppression, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set the world in a way that the consequences are through many natural things that occur, disasters and problems, and destruction eventually. There are other stories, inshallah, we'll cover them. Musa alayhi salam and Khidr, beautiful story in there in Surah Al-Kahf, and the story of the Qarnayn. Inshallah, we'll cover them in the coming session. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.